afternoon, Penguin Beaches, and welcome down to the left wing. Today is a sunshiny day, although we have some clouds behind us. My name is Jax. I'm going to be your naturalist down here today. Jason is still with me behind the camera, and we decided to have a nice relaxed afternoon in the left wing today. So just behind us, we do have some clouds rolling in, so we're going to have to check that weather. Hopefully, we're not going to have rain coming in today. These days after a storm are just so nice and clear. And as it is every day, today is a live show, so please send us in your comments and questions. So you can do that by commenting on YouTube. You could use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. And of course, you can also submit your questions on our channels page. Kids, email us at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. But we know that we have so many of you who love to comment and do comment every day. We are looking at a nice group of penguins who are sitting and enjoying the sunny weather down here. So after a few days of storm, I think they love having their feathers dry out. I was speaking to Gavin this morning, the penguin whisperer, and he was saying that some of the chicks were struggling with the flooding, with the water, so they did have to rescue some of the chicks and try to help them dry out their feathers. Jade, I also find that the sound of the ocean today is fantastic. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take a few minutes of silence, and I think we should all take some deep breaths and just enjoy the roar of this ocean. So today is a fairly windstill day, but these swells have come all the way from the Antarctic seas to grace our shores. And we've had the question a couple of times this last week about tide and wind and wave. And today's a very good example of when a high tide might cause a bit of damage, because you can see this sea is very rough and very strong. So it's not a windy sea, but it's a very strong sea as it pushes into this area. And today is also full moon. And so when you have a strong sea like this and you have the full moon, which makes your high tides high and your low tides low, the combination of that strong sea force and a higher tide is likely to bring in a lot of kelp to the seashore. The sea is supposed to calm down today. The swell is supposed to drop. So it's not likely that we'd have a big storm surge or any real structural damage to the area. But if we go and have a look at the horizon, you'll see the horizon is very crinkly, and that's very indicative of swell. So the sea looks beautiful, but if you had to go out there, you would be bouncing about between the swells. And it is whale season, so every day from now on, Jason and I are going to be keeping our eyes on the horizon to see if we can spot whales in between our penguins.
Seven of our favorite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Juma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ntima's first cub, and they're turning out to be quite the handful. Is their name Loki, after the Norse god of mischief and trickery? Is it Hlongavi, the one who can't be tamed? Or is it Shihleko, full of giggles? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
We're very thankful for the sunny weather today. It's likely that we might have a couple of days of sun now. Jerry, so that's an excellent question. You want to know how long can the kelp grow? And this kelp that you're seeing at the surface, which is Eclonia maxima, the sea bamboo, can grow to a height of about 12 meters. So you do get other kelp. I believe the bull kelp in California can grow to a height of about 30 meters. But here our kelp will only grow to a height of 12 meters, and so you can actually use it to determine how deep an area is. And on days when it's very foggy, it's also really good for navigation, because if you see kelp, you know that you're in shallow water and you know that you might be around some rocks. So this kelp grows to a depth of 12 meters, and it always has to be at the surface because this kelp does photosynthesize. It needs the sun to be able to grow. We get other kelp species in the area, but they grow below this species. They grow deeper water. They don't need the sun quite as badly. And what I want us to do is just have a look at the wave force quickly. So the wave's just broken. We've just got to wait a little bit for a wave to break again. Nancy, in so many ways. So you're asking how the kelp helps the ecosystem, and this kelp, when you look at it from the surface, it looks quite boring, but this kelp is actually creating an underwater sea forest for so many animals to live in. So your small sharks will live in there, your octopus, so many different fish species, seals will come in to feed into the kelp forest, your crown cormorants, bank cormorants will feed inside the kelp forest. So most of these animals could not survive in open sea or on a sandy beach, because on a sandy beach you actually have very little life, because you have the things that live in the sand and then nothing else really lives there. They travel through, because if you can't hide from something, it makes you a sitting duck for predators. So you have a lot more life in rocky reef systems than what you do when you only have a sandy bottom bay. And then when the kelp washes up on the beach, this discarded kelp, this washed up kelp, leaches nutrients back into the soil here. It provides food. These beach hoppers that eat the dead kelp provide a lot of food for your heartlips gulls, for your Egyptian geese, for your ibis. I look at these beach hoppers and I think the beach hoppers actually aerate the soil. I think that the beach hoppers have a huge impact. I haven't read much about it, but if I look at where I can see the beach hoppers live, the soil looks aerated by them, which is pretty incredible. Nadia, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to head over to the Egyptian geese, because there was one Egyptian goose who was calling. So Jay, the one furthest to the right, that one over there, was just, he looks a bit confused. So I actually just want to go see. I think it's Cleo or Mark. I think it might actually be Mark. But back to your question, you were asking if kelp feels slimy, and in the water, yes, kelp feels very slimy. If it washes up on the beach and then sometimes it gets really watery and very soggy, then it feels awful and slimy. But kelp also dries very quickly. And it reminds me of the very first time Cedric was down here at Penguin Beach, because I made him eat kelp, but I made him eat slightly desiccated, which is dry kelp. And I didn't realize that when the kelp was very dry, it became a lot more salty and a lot less palatable. So it is fairly slimy to touch. So one of the Egyptian geese was making a weird call.
7 of our favorite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Juma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ntima's second born, and dare we say golden child, full of fun? Is their name Kira, the beam of light? Is it Kemba, meaning faithful in Norse? Or is it Mikateko, the blessed one? Head over to our website to cast your vote. 7 of our favorite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Juma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ribbon's second-born, with nicked ears and a softer heart full of adventure. Is their name Rangani, the adventurer? Is it Twela, the sensitive and empathetic one? Or is it Spirit, for that spirited soul we love so much? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
So we're going to have a look at these crazy eights, who are in fact 9. They're having a nice sleep here on the seashore. And you can see their light-colored eyelids, and occasionally they just open their eyes, and they've got these beautiful hazel colored. They've got a much deeper brown than the adult's eye color. The adults have more like a golden bronzish color, but I actually prefer the eye color of the chicks. I think it's so beautiful. There's a baby stretching, and you can actually see how the wings are, the feathers on the wing are coming in so nicely. Betty, yes, different birds have different colored eyes. Thank you for your question. And even at different life stages, bird eye colors can change. So if you even just look at our cormorant species that we have here, our Cape cormorants have beautiful blue eyes. Our bank cormorants have turquoise eyes that become red with age. Crowned cormorants have reddish orangish eyes. So there's lots of variation, and I did try to do some research. There was a couple months ago already a question about eye color and what it could mean, and it's actually very difficult to find different reasons for the different eye colors. But you can see in the baby stage, these Egyptian geese have these hazel eyes, and the adults have far more gold and orange. The temperature has just dropped now, and the sun has decided to hide away. So if it does start to rain, oh, there's a cormorant eating a fish. Do you see there? Oh, I think he's just swallowed it. Little Cape cormorant. So we've just missed it, but we will see. Maybe the cormorant catches another fish. Oh, this is a crowned cormorant, sorry. Lucy, so I think that they are so cute when they snuggle like this. They do look extremely snuggly. So that was a crowned cormorant, not a Cape cormorant. Sorry, I thought it was a little bit big. But I think that crowned cormorant might have had a clipfish. So we'll see if he keeps hunting. He's brave to hunt in this very wavy region now. And to be able to hunt in this visibility, so I mean we can't see a thing, this water would be super milky, but shows us that they're not only using their eyesight to be able to find the fish that they're hunting for. So he's just gone down again underneath the wave. If it does start to rain, we are going to have to make this an afdaki show. But we're going to hold on as long as we can out here, and hopefully the rain will play along with us. So the crowned cormorant's going down again. So they don't have very deep dives in this area. It's because the water's very shallow. And we do find that these crowned cormorants love to feed at low tide. And clipfish, the little rockfish, seem to be a favorite of theirs.
My name is Nico Brits. I am originally from Cape Town. I worked in the Eastern Cape for about 9 years before I started working at Bushwise Field Guides in the Lowveld. close to Makalali Private Game Reserve. So I'm hoping that by doing this could inspire the younger or newer guides coming into the industry to do the same.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
We've just had another creature join the seashore, so I think we're going to go over and have a look at this kelp gull who's just arrived to see what it might find, and we also have some penguins coming back in. We've got two penguins who are coming in from the stormy seas, making their way back. And you'll see they'll use this channel, which is like a natural little harbour, to come back in. I do wonder where these penguins have been and what have they seen on their fishing expedition today. Were there sharks? Were there dolphins? It'd be incredible to ask a penguin what they'd experienced. So dark mane lover, you would like to know how penguins react to the full moon. So I have had a look to see if I could find anything about penguins and the full moon, and as of yet I haven't actually found all that much information about African penguins and the full moon. So that is an ongoing question that we are looking at. I know that some birds tend to call a lot more when there's full moon, but we can't access this colony at night. So at night this is a closed off colony, which is a good thing. So I'm not entirely sure if their behavior does change. I think it would be incredible to watch penguins by moonlight actually and see what their behavior is like at night. But as of yet, I've not seen too much information. These penguins are, I'd say, predominantly diurnal from my understanding, and diurnal means they're awake and functioning during the day. At night, I think they are likely to sleep more. Penguins don't sleep like we do, so they don't have very deep sleeps. They have sort of intermittent naps. I did want to show you actually today, because it's full moon, there were a lot of kelp flies around, but I think because the temperature has dropped again, the kelp flies are less active. So I think it was about 22 degrees that was ideal for the kelp flies. The goose is waking her babies up. So we're just going to move back to the crazy 8, who are in fact 9, because the one goose is making a noise and the babies are stirring. They've all sat down again, but I promised that they had been getting ready. It's interesting because I don't see it with birds. With marine mammals, you see them communicating and then you see movement. Mo, so you're asking with Egyptian geese, do they always stay in flocks? I believe that Egyptian geese have monogamous pairs, but you will often see several Egyptian geese together. So I wouldn't say you'd often find a lone Egyptian goose. And here certainly, often where you see one, if you watch it for long enough, it will soon be joined by its partner. I'm trying to figure out what's happening with these geese today, because both of the parents seem to be a bit distracted and quite vocal. Now the chicks all put their head up. Look, now suddenly So the chicks knew, or whatever mom or dad said was time to go. And I was just saying before that it's something you see a lot with particularly dolphins, and you see it often with whales as well, where you can see that underwater there's calling happening because suddenly everybody will change direction. I don't think these geese are happy because all the chicks, when they put their heads up, they seemed a bit nervous, and then they stood up, and now they're settling back in. But I feel like the parents are unsettled. I don't know why.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose.
At the crazy eights, but I see there's a penguin who's picking up some kelp, and since we've had lots of kelp questions today, we'll see if he does it again. This one right on the rocks, Jay. Moonbeam Smith. I absolutely love your sense of humor. I love to read your comments after the show. You are to me what I am to Cedric, in that you pick up every little thing I say wrong, and I enjoy that. I enjoy people. I can tell that you're really listening. But you're asking if the goslings will disperse, and they do. So I think in the next couple of weeks we'll actually see these goslings start to go their own way. Apparently female Egyptian geese tend to go back to their natal grounds more so than the males do. But very soon, because these Egyptian geese were first spotted on Earth Day, so that's already a couple of months ago now. So I think that very soon they will disperse, and then they can fly quite fast, so they might disperse all over the Western Cape. They don't seem to have very distinct disbursement patterns when I have done some reading about them. But thank you for your question, and thank you as always for your comments. I love to get a good giggle out of them. And the geese seem to have settled again, although the parents are still not happy, and that's just I think that's a bit of a warning call that we see there. And we have the little egret, yellow socks, Igor's best friend down here at Penguin Beach. So we'll have a look at this little egret and see what it's up to. So they do love to feed when the tide is low like this. And the little egret is the bird here that seems to really try to move without disturbing all the other animals as much as possible. We did get to see the little egret the other day with the penguins, where it was actually fighting back, but you can see this little egret doesn't want to fight with the Egyptian geese. He's looking for fish. And his little head crest is blowing beautifully in the wind. This water is very shallow, where this egret is trying to fish. I'm not actually sure if he's maybe looking and hoping that there's someone who is stuck in one of these pools. Kiara, so that's a good question. So the egrets often live in heronries. So although we see them on the shoreline here, when we see them on the shoreline here, we'd at maximum see about 2 little egrets, but at night they will go and they will live in trees with herons and with other little egrets, and so you can see them in fairly large groups. Cattle egrets you often see quite a few together. Little egrets, I can't think I've ever seen more than 2 in one area along the seashore. If Jay can get them into frame. Jay, can you see those 2, there's the penguins here on the seashore, these 2 in front of us. I don't know if we'll get them on the camera. So we have an adult penguin with a baby blue. So this blue has just gotten its full colors, and its sibling still has just a bit of fluff on the neck. Are you able to capture them, Jay? So it looks like they are just behind the dune spinach, so we might not be able to show you. But this is the time where we are going to start seeing our chicks start to go closer to the water.
Hello everyone, my name is Ruan Groble. I'm from Lion Sands Game Reserve, and being nominated for the Safari Guide of the Year came as somewhat of a surprise to me. I was very excited and quite nervous as well in the beginning to tackle this task, but it's quite a prestigious event, and it means that you are recognized, and I'm quite happy to be recognized. It means quite a lot to me.
So these penguins all look like they are getting ready to head back to the nesting area. And for the last couple of days, they've done that very early on in the day. Benji, so penguins do actually have issues with parasites. So you're asking if they struggle, and things like blood parasites are quite a problem for African penguins. Ticks can also infest their nests. They can also get lice. I think they can also get worms. In my head, I've got the notion that there might be some worms that might actually infect African penguins. So we don't often think that oceanic animals might have parasites, but most of your sea animals will experience some sort of parasitism. They can also get avian malaria. So mosquitoes will actually bite penguins. But to my knowledge, they seem to be a lot more hardy than a lot of your other seabirds. So your Cape cormorants, for example, seem to be very susceptible to parasites and to diseases. So I've heard of penguins having ticks and having diseases from parasites and having worms and things, but I don't often hear about that being a major threat to our African penguins. We've got more penguins who are coming in from the ocean. It looks like everybody's finished up with their fishing. You'll see sometimes they arrive in twos, sometimes it's only one penguin. They all want to gather in a nice big group, and once there's enough of them, then they'll start to walk towards the major penguin pathways. Good question. So you're asking if some penguins are better swimmers than others, and I would say definitely yes. Oh, there's lots of penguins coming in now. They're all coming in with that wave. So I think it would be hard to measure. Let me put it that way. I think it would be hard to say which penguin is a stronger swimmer than another, but I think you definitely get some animals who are better at being that animal. You get penguins who are better swimmers, better hunters. They're likely to survive a lot longer and raise their chicks perhaps even a bit better than penguins that are not so strong at swimming. So I've not read any studies about that. I have read about there being more confident and less confident penguins, but it's every animal in the world. You get some animals that are really fast in a species, you get others that move a lot more slowly. I think it really does depend on the individual animal. And one of the questions we had, not yesterday, maybe the day before, was asking about the animals that might have missing flippers or missing parts of their feet. And they certainly wouldn't be as strong a swimmer because they'd have to compensate for their flipper not being quite as long. But penguins can feed by themselves, but for the most part, penguins are about group work. They quite like to feed in rafts, and so I think a lot of the times with penguins, the function of working together is more important than actually being the strongest swimmer. And you can see all the penguins are now waddling. They're getting ready to go. You're asking if I personally think penguins are clumsy. I think no more clumsy than human beings. I will say that. I think that they are at times a bit clumsy because they'll fall off rocks and things. But I also think that given the environment that they're in, I always ask, could I do it better? If I was as a person, could I not trip over rocks? And I spend a lot of time on the seashore, and I do often come short myself. So yes, they are clumsy, but no more clumsy than us. It's very interesting that these penguins are all back very early. I don't think it's related to the rain. It looks like there might be some rain coming over, or it might miss us. Have to see. But one of the questions that's also ongoing is we're looking at penguins and storms, and I think the penguins actually do go out to feed in these rough storms. The more I think about it, the more I think that they do.
My name is Solomon Lovu. I am working at Singita Kruger National Park. I am very excited today to be one of the guys that have been nominated or selected to participate in the Safari Guide of the Year. I'm an activator. I like studying something, motivating others to become better. I am positive. I like to focus on the positive sides of the situation.
As our global WildEarth family grows, we know that many of you struggle to get your questions answered during the live safari. Going forward, we will be holding AMAs for our WildEarth explorers, and the next one is with Trishala Naidu, our resident scientist and lover of all things in nature.
Join me on the 15th of June straight after the Sunset Safari for the opportunity to ask me anything. All you've got to do is sign up to be an explorer and get those burning questions ready, and I'll answer them.
These penguins are very skittish. They were all heading towards the penguin paths, and then something made them a bit nervous. All the animals on the seashore seem to be a little bit nervous today. So young penguins should start to learn to swim when they are about 2 months old. I think maybe a little bit longer than 2 months based on what I'm seeing recently. But I think it usually takes them about 90 days to fledge. So I think it's about 3 months. Sometimes it can be a bit longer, especially with the second chick. But we haven't seen any of the juvenile penguins in the water yet. So I like to read the books and I like to have a look at what the books say, but I also like to see what I see on the ground. And I don't think we've seen a single blue standing by the water yet. And some of those chicks were born in March, or the nests were already sort of hatching in late March. So in theory, we should have juveniles by the seashore already. But I've not seen it just yet. And I think Jason is ready to move because we really want to see if we can show you guys these birds. So they are right next to the June spinach. So we're just going to give a bit of a shake until we get settled again. As I mentioned the June spinach, I have to tell you something very interesting. Cedric and I went for a walk this morning in Gansbaai, where of course Byron used to live and I used to live. And we found that the June spinach there is already flowering, but it's not flowering here. So I found that very strange, that you don't really even see buds on the June spinach here. You're getting into it. And here you can see parent with 2 babies. The baby closest to us is now a minted blue baby penguin. He's lost all his down and should be ready to hop into the water very soon. His sibling is behind him, but his sibling has still got some fur to be lost, or some down rather, it's not fur. But penguins do this on purpose. At a certain stage in their breeding cycle, they actually start to give the one chick more. They feed the one chick more to get the chick to fledge first. So they want to get the one baby out the nest, and then the second baby will leave the nest a little bit later. And I think that that's so that they don't have too much demand on them to have 2 fully fledged babies at the same time. I think energetically that might be super tough for the adult penguins. So they take their time raising their chicks, which in theory should make them very successful breeders. The one baby, this baby looks like it'll soon start going towards the water. And hopefully we'll start to see the babies swim here. And then their sibling is likely to fledge a few weeks after. So seabirds are very good parents, and seabirds take it slow when they raise their chicks. Albatross can take up to a year to fledge. But seabirds are also very long-lived compared to a lot of other bird species. we're just going to have a nice look. I'm going to speak very softly just to make sure that these penguins feel nice and comfortable. It's really sweet to have the baby cleaning its parent. To me, that does show love. I think penguins are very capable of loving each other. Beamer Smith. When does the pink area on the face appear? I think that pink area would be after their blues and when they become juveniles, but I don't have the perfect answer for that question. So what I'm going to do, Beamer Smith, is I'm going to look that up today and I will get back to you on that tomorrow. I'm looking at a juvenile on the seashore who's being bullied by an adult, and that juvenile has the pink above the eye. The baby that Jason is showing us doesn't have the pink just yet, although it already has that little bit of white above the eye to try to not have the adults bully them at sea. I think it's when they go from being a blue to a juvenile, but I'm not entirely sure when that process actually takes place. So I'll go have a look in the bird book. Looks like we might start to get just a little bit of rain. It's starting to drop. Oh, and the crazy eights are now on the move.
My name is Solomon Lobu. I am working at Singita Kruger National Park. I am very excited today to be one of the guys that have been nominated or selected to participate in the Safari Guide of the Year. I'm an activator. I like starting something, motivating others to become better. I am positive. I like to focus on the positive sides of the situation.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to bushwise field guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
So, Penguin Beaches, I think what we might do is we might start to walk just a little bit closer towards the parking lot, just because we don't want our camera to go for a swim. So you're going to follow me, just in case. What happens here is that you think you're going to be okay with the rain, and then suddenly there's a downpour. So we don't want to do that to you or to the camera today. So we'll just take a little walk. I actually want to show you just how much it has rained, Jay. If you could just get this, like this water path here, and you can actually see it all the way into the bushes there. So this is why the frogs, the clicking stream frogs, have a field day here, because they have a stream. So we've got our own Penguin Beach waterfall here. So that is running into the ocean. I think we're going to keep moving along. Just to make sure that we keep our camera nice and dry. And if you are someone who likes to travel, you like to go on holiday, I highly recommend that the jacket that you take is a waterproof jacket, and make sure that your jacket is big enough to actually fit your camera underneath your jacket. So that's what I do when I'm on the boats, so that if ever you are caught out in the rain and you have your digital equipment, you can just zip it underneath the jacket and keep it nice and dry. Because there's nothing worse than going on holiday or going to a wild space and getting your camera soaked. We've just got a little penguin using one of the penguin portals. We'll just do you want to sit up here by Hideaway, or do you want to go under the roof? Do you want to go to Hideaway or go under the roof, Jay? Okay, so I think Jason wants us to go under the aftaki just so that we are safe from the rain. But Taylor, you're asking what diseases are penguins prone to? And that's a good question. So I know that there was a time where our penguins were getting avian flu, they were getting bird flu, which wasn't all that great for African penguins. I said to you before, where I used to work was with penguins on an island, or didn't work with them on the island, but where we experienced those penguins, and every year they'd get something called island sickness, where they seemed to have a lot of mucus, but we couldn't figure out exactly what that was. Like I said, blood parasites can also cause a bit of trouble for them. And those are the diseases that I know about. Avian cholera is also an issue for African penguins. And then there are new diseases like the avian flu, for example, was something that was only really documented in 2018 to my knowledge, because it jumped from the swift tones to the African penguins. So those are the diseases that I know of currently, but I will have an ask from a friend and see if there's anything else that we have not considered. So we are nearly at the aftaki.
Long misunderstood as dim-witted, gluttonous scavengers, the hyena over the years has had a serious PR crisis on its paws. Here at WildEarth, our beloved Juma clan has allowed us a chance to set the record straight.
We're sitting here with the Juma clan.
So now it's time to honor this critical animal and join our hyena hullabaloo. Trishala Naidu, a self-confessed hyena lover, will be leading the celebrations, culminating in a chance to name Ribbon's new cubs.
7 of our favorite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Juma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Heart's cub, adventurous and brave, and daughter to one of our most loved mothers. Is her name Moya, meaning wind or soul, for that adventurous side? Is it Shiluva, meaning flower, for her growth? Or is it Mbilo, meaning heart, as Heart's daughter with a heart on her side? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
So we've just found ourselves underneath the aftaki, and we're just going to take a wide view of the sea, and you can see we've got some clouds in the sky. You hear the mountains always look purple in the distance. And often after you have the stormy days, you've got these beautiful clear days where you can see the mountains very clearly. It's beautiful to watch as the swell rolls in and picks up the kelp. So it's these sorts of conditions that will cause the kelp to become uprooted and wash up on the seashore. We haven't had kelp wash up in quite some time actually. So it would be nice to have some fresh kelp coming along, and then we'd have a lot more beach hoppers. We'd likely have our heart lip skulls and our sacred ibis on the beach more. The lovely thing about the kelp is that it also breaks the wave force for us. So wherever you have a kelp rocky reef, it ensures that when the waves are reaching the shoreline, they're not quite as rough and quite as hard. So often you'll find on boats that you can actually use these reef systems to hide from the wave force. And if you've got a kelp reef system on the edge of the bay, it protects the whole of the inner bay. But Stony Point is a very interesting area in that every wind direction seems to cause big seas here. So it's not a very protected port at all. It's not a very protected harbour space. This was once a port, and if you go and have a look, we have the breakwater and then we have the slipway. So this was an old whaling station about 100 years ago. So there was nothing much happening here when they set up the whaling station. I think they wanted to bring industry into the area. But for several different reasons, it didn't quite work out in this area. And I can't imagine it was very easy, if you look at the sea, to get in and out of this area. So we have that little shipwreck, the Ulna, and that was wrecked on purpose to try to create a bit of a breakwater from the sea. So the breakwater just tries to stop the force of the ocean, which is exactly what the kelp reef systems do. I think Jason made a good call because it's drizzling slightly heavier now. I do wonder if the penguins knew that the storm was coming, and that's why many of them were making their way back to the nests before the rain was coming in. And tomorrow in South Africa is Youth Day, which is something we celebrate every day on the 16th of June. I'm quite excited for Youth Day because I want to talk about what you can do if you are under the age of 18, if you're still young. So what you can do to try to help conservation while you're still in school. Because I think a lot of us who guide and who work with animals started off by doing things like presentations when we had our school speeches. So I'm quite excited to chat about that. I think Trish is very excited over in Juma about Hyena Week. I think she's having a great time. So we also have Father's Day on Sunday. So lots of exciting things to look forward to as the week carries on.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to bushwise field guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose.
So you can probably just hear that little drizzle. It's nice and chilly here. We've got that beautiful smell of rain. Well, not the rain itself, but the ground and what the plants smell like when it rains. And we've had very good rain over the last couple of days. I'm sure you've been watching the shows and you've seen it's been quite wet down here at Penguin Beach, but that's very important because this is the winter rainfall area. We need rain to fill up our dams. The fynbos is very particular about how much rain it needs. If it has too much rain, it's not good. If it has too little rain, it starts to become renosterveld. So we live in a very complex ecosystem here. But over the years, Cape Town has started to experience a little bit more drought, and so we're very thankful when we do have days and days of good rain. It's also very good for your underwater resources, or underground resources rather. And I think it's just a wonderfully calm, quiet day down here at Penguin Beach. I think we'll just take a couple of moments of silence before we say goodbye to you all. Jay, we've got all the penguins coming out of the penguin portal. So we've just got these penguins who are coming out of the portal going to the nests. On behalf of Jason and I, thank you so much for deciding to spend your afternoon with us. We hope you had a wonderful, wonderful time. We will see you again tomorrow. I've got 2 unanswered questions because I actually forgot to answer the one about shipwrecks in this area. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a wonderful time. And we will see you again very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.